What is up, you guys? Thank you for watching the second part in my 4 video series over the Dan and Dave Variety Box, in which I'm doing a review of each deck individually. So these videos in this series are going to be a little bit more lengthy than most of my usual reviews, but I'm trying to pack 3 decks into one. So this is part 2. This is going to cover every deck from number 9 to number 7. These decks are also ranked by me, by my personal opinion, of 1 through 12. So I'm going to start with deck number 9 and I'll finish with deck number 7. So a quick disclaimer, these next 3 or 4 decks I'm going to review overlapping into the next video. I'm going to break my ratings down into a little bit further, whereas they would usually just be 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 or whatever. I'm going to break them down into decimals like 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, things such and such, because most of these decks, these next 4 or 5, are almost on the exact same playing field as far as design and handling goes. There's just one deck might have one element that I like a little bit more, so I just placed a little bit higher. It really came down to a really narrow margin with these next 3 or 4 decks. So starting with deck number 9, we have the DeckStarter brand deck. Now, this is a limited edition deck. It was basically meant to kind of promote the idea of DeckStarter. If you don't know what that is, it's kind of like it's basically Kickstarter, but specifically for decks. Now, I haven't seen many projects go live on it yet. I believe there's only been 3 or 4 DeckStarter decks. And that's because I think it's kind of more of a niche market, but all the decks that are produced on DeckStarter are produced by Art of Play or Dan and Dave. I could be wrong on the Art of Play thing. It's either Art of Play or it's Dan and Dave who produces them. Either way, they're both practically the same company. So the decks that are produced with DeckStarter are really, really high quality decks. One of the an example of the one of the decks produced by DeckStarter is the Flesh and Bones deck, which I did a review on previously. Really nice deck. So anyways, let's get into it. What you get is you get an ad card for DeckStarter.com, and you get another card that says what will your deck look like, and you get two these are supposed to be jokers with the Joker hats on them. So the tuck box has some mild embossing on it when it says DeckStarter, and the lines on the box are mildly embossed. You get the Ace of Spades here, which just looks like your back design with just really thin lines. And it's important to note that all of the inks in this deck are metallic inks. They're all metallic base, so they shine in the light really well. You probably can't tell, but you can see as I'm going through the face cards are not necessarily standard. The designs are, but they took the border out, recolored it, and did some metallic ink. So that's pretty much it for this deck. As you can see, the back design here says DeckStarter with a spade and the borderless back design. Now, I really like the design of this deck. It looks really good when fanned. There's really thin lines that you can't see, but it does give a really nice effect when fanned. So out of design, this deck is going to get a 4 out of 5 in design and a 4 out of 5 in handling, because it handles really well. It's on a thin, crispy stock, and you can feel it whenever you dribble the cards. I'm sure you can hear that. You can kind of hear how thin they are, how thin the stock is, but it's really nice. They work really well. Handling is really nice. So a solid 4 out of 5 for this deck, the DeckStarter brand deck. So moving on to deck number 8, we have the Guy Hollingworth deck. Now, it was really hard for me to not place this deck higher, and I almost did, and I'll explain why in a little bit, but there's some mild embossing on it. It says playing cards on one side, it says Guy Hollingworth on the other side, and again, mild embossing. This is produced by Dan and Dave. A really, really great deck. Once again, kind of following the same standard as the DeckStarter deck. Every ink that you see on this back design, it's all metallic. So even though you can't tell in the light, this deck really shines really well. It's extremely reflective and it looks really good. It almost looks like, because the back design is designed with Guy Hollingworth's initials. You can see these 4 brackets here, and then you can see Guy Hollingworth's initials in the center. But the rest of the back design is also designed with his initials. But all of the initials that make up the back design are printed with like a gold foil ink. So when spreading it out, it kind of almost looks like you're holding gold, which is pretty cool. So you get a gaff card with this deck that has a half king of clubs, half king of spades on one side, and half king of diamonds, half king of hearts on the opposite side. So there is a lot of really, really crazy stuff that you can do with that. Some 3-card Monty effects and things of the sort. You get a joker that has an ace of spades reveal in it. Both jokers are holding an ace of spades. And you get a double backer, and there you see your ace of spades. And you can see the face cards are standard, just recolored to match the theme of the deck, and again they have metallic inks in them. The only thing that is not metallic is the font and the pips. So really nice with this deck. Again, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. The reason the handling is not much better, and the reason it's the main reason this deck doesn't place a lot higher than it does, or at least higher than the next 2, is because it might just be me, but it feels as if the stock that these are printed on is almost that much thinner than like the DeckStarter deck or some of your other decks, because it feels like whenever I'm springing the deck, or not springing, dribbling the deck, that it's actually bending the cards. Okay, and it's kind of produces an irreversible bend in them when you do this, because it's so thin. And I think it might have something to do with, although the metallic ink that was used on this deck, it kind of out of necessity they had to print it on something really thin. But it is an extremely thin stock, so it's too thin for me to really feel comfortable with it. I wouldn't want to do much springing or anything with it, because I feel as if I would bend it irreversibly. But so that's the main reason it doesn't place higher than it does. So a 4 out of 5 on handling. Design, I'm gonna give it like a 4.8 out of 5, because I really like the design. I just only wish that they would have done a little bit more with the face cards. So that is the Guy Hollingworth deck. And rounding off our list at number 6 here, we have the Alice in Wonderland playing cards. Now, this deck is mildly embossed. It's another Dan and Dave deck, but also created on DeckStarter. So here's the second DeckStarter deck that is placed in this, box of 12, and another really, really fine deck. So you get a DeckStarter ad card, you get an ad card about the deck itself, and you get 2 jokers. And there's some small text on these jokers right here that says "We're all mad here." So there's a lot of references and quotes from the movie in this, or from the book and Alice in Wonderland, the tale, I should say, in general. There's a lot of quotes from it, which is a really nice touch. It's a really, really glorious deck. I really, really like it a lot. It places higher than the Guy Hollingworth deck because the handling is a little bit better. And the design, I like the design a little bit more, because even though, oh, here you have your ace of spades, sorry about that. You can see that in each card there is a pip that is colored a different color, which is a really nice touch. And even though the face cards don't even really have faces on them, they just have a big letter, they have these pips on top. They kind of look like crowns, and they're again also recolored. So even though they didn't do a whole lot creatively with the face cards, they did something a little bit different, and something that you don't really see a lot. So that's the main reason that it placed higher than the Guy Hollingworth deck. So as far as design goes, I'm going to give it a 4.2. I feel like they could have done a little bit better, a little bit more with the face cards. They could have done something a little bit different. Something that, like, for example, it's an Alice in Wonderland deck, so why not have each face card be the face of some of the main characters? I personally would love to have a deck that has the Cheshire Cat as one of the face cards, or maybe the Joker. probably the Joker fits more. So I feel like they could have done something like that, and it would have been really, really awesome and absolutely put this deck over the top for me. Handling, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5, simply because it's handles really, really well. The stock is really good, and yeah, it's just a great deck all around. So anyways, that is the second part in my series here. So thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys in the next one.